Sorry, driveway's starting to look like a scrapyard, so I need to kind of move on this stuff. So videos will be a little shorter, maybe a little less detailed. I don't know. Either that or it'll just take me longer to get them edited and out. But backstory on that, it's a 2001 Honda Accord with like 80,000 miles on it, but it sat for 10 years in my buddy's neighbor's driveway. So he had a change of heart. He had ordered a Tesla, and he decided to cancel it. So he said he only needs something to commute with, and he didn't want to pay. I think his payment was going to be almost $1,000 a month. I don't know which model he ordered, but he said he'd rather sell his boat and get a better boat and have an extra $100 or $2 a month boat payment than have a Tesla payment. So this was $250. So he could have bought 4 of these for one month's Tesla payment. I don't know if that's the right choice or not, but he came over because the brakes were spongy. Just kind of had me look the thing over and decide if he really should go ahead and pay his neighbor and keep it. And at this point he has to, because we took it down the road. It almost changed lanes on me because the brakes were so bad. So right front caliper wasn't pinching at all. There was so much air in the lines. Well, there's air in the lines because it had been draining out because there was a hole in the back. So he bled out the front enough to start building pressure, and then it sprayed fluid all over the driveway from a rusted out rear. And then while taking the tray out of the bottom, show how this design works. There's 3 fuel lines: the feed line, the return line, the vapor line. And of course they're rusty too. So here's all the lines outside of the tray. So the way these trays work, you can see the clips in them. These clippy parts I thought are supposed to come out, but it looks like they're part of the same piece. So like these go up in place and the lines snap into them, and they're a huge pain in the butt. They've got these weird plastic nuts that go up through and onto the rusty standoffs, and I hate them. I thought I was going to snap them into pieces when I took them out, but I didn't. So I guess we'll put them back in because we shouldn't have to deal with this stuff for a long time. But everything's rusty and gross, just everything. So he went ahead and used lines2go.com, and we ordered the rear lines and the rear fuel lines. It was like 350 or 370 shipped, and they'll be here tomorrow. So I'm going to try to get at least the brake lines out, because I don't know when I pull that fuel line if it's going to try to dump the whole tank on me. But everything's like down in there and hard to get to. Like I can't even reach a wrench in. I need to get down to that proportioning valve down in there. So I think because this is empty, I'm going to go ahead and pop these 2 lines off of the master cylinder, pull the whole master cylinder out, pull this support out, pull this vacuum light out, just get these things out of the way. Then I'll be able to get to the fuel lines, and I'll be able to get to the rear brake lines. We'll put them back in before we bleed it. I think it's going to be the easiest way to get around it. And yeah, the sun's already going down, and I'm stuck out in the driveway, and I'm not going to work on this piece of crap in the dark. So what I'll do is work on the car a bit. When it gets too dark and annoying, we'll got some bicycle project going on. So there's my Croyle. I did that stuff. Whether you believe it works or not, I don't care. I love it. One thing I've noticed, regardless of whether it actually helps it break free argument, is that if I spray something nasty with Croyle and I break it free, it never binds up afterwards, right? I don't get halfway up a rusty bolt and then have it seize up and snap on me anyway. Okay, so got this out of the way. 10 millimeter for those, 12 for the standoffs to the booster. And it looks like I can at least fit my whole hand down in here. I'm not sure how I'm going to get them over that effectively and work on it, but at least we can reach. So it's these 2 lines right here in the top. One option, doesn't help us put them back in, is to cut those and use a socket, since we're replacing the line anyway. But if I can, I'd like to take them out as one piece. I don't know why, but I just do. Well, this one came off, surprisingly, but look at this bullshit. Look at the tip of the wrench. See that nut right there? That's the nut that holds the clamp, that holds the line in place. Like, there's a whole rear subframe, and it's in the way of that bolt. So I don't know, it's probably a 12. Hopefully I can get a 12 in there, and hopefully it comes out. If not, we may end up cutting this and then just zip tie the new line right up against the old one. So we'll see. Kind of disappointed in that. So Honda update, the driveway's all wet, so I'm just going to plain stay away. I mean, maybe if it dries out a little bit, I'll rip the cardboard out, but I don't want to soak my good piece of cardboard either. So fuel lines and brake lines are in, so we'll get them all opened up. Here's the fuel side, and the way they run these is you have your, here's this should be the tank end, so this will go underneath the back of the car. These come forward, and this is the stuff that goes up inside the vehicle or in the engine bay, and then they bolt together with big old compression fittings in the center. So it makes them pretty easy to install. I think the brake lines are the same way. Yeah, let's get those opened up and check them out. Not sure why it's in 2 boxes, but that's fine. Although maybe these aren't brakes. This is something for the wife. About to get in trouble. Okay, so yeah, same thing. The brake lines, they don't need to be bent to shape. And look, they're actually color coded, which is cool. And these are stainless. So a really good thing to have on a Michigan car is stainless brake lines. You don't have to bend them. I've bought pre-bent lines in the past where they show up in a little tiny box, and like this straight section will be folded in half like 3 times, and they'll have little arrows where like, oh, you need to bend this part straight. Like I don't like that. So but these are from our friends up north. I think they're all made in Canada. That's probably why they don't suck. Right? Yep, made in Canada. Let's see. Made in Canada. So yep, big old boxes, straight lines you don't have to bend, and they look great. They look perfect. So we'll see how they work out in the end. Alright, try to get this thing out of here today. Get these lines in. So you can see those fuel lines go through like a bracket down there. And the one on the far left is this top one. And then the one on the far right comes up, and it's this vent line here. It takes a 14. We'll let that oil soak in a little bit and then take it off. Okay, this is it's easier to get to from the bottom. So I'll try to, yeah, so there's that block. The fuel lines, you can see it's a 10 millimeter, so my 10 millimeter wrench is still on there. I was able to get that in there, and with one hand, just kind of, it's a ratcheting 10 millimeter. It's nice to have, but eventually that'll pop off, and then we'll be done removing all the stuff from the front. And these lines should kind of drop down. They'll probably need to be wiggled around a bit, and then I'll need to go and work on things in the back to get those apart. So I think because they're all right there, we'll knock the fuel lines out first, and then we'll worry about getting the brake lines out. I think those, probably just start cutting them, right? Because we don't need to take them all the way out. Cut them and be done. Oh, got all the fuel lines out. It's a huge pain in the butt. Did not have fun at all. This came out. Yeah. So try to use this again so they're not banging around and making noise. Here's that clamp that was on the firewall, right? So just get this over your hoses, and this sandwich is in place. So what we'll probably do is try to put this over them kind of after they're laying there. So we'll put the front ones in from the top, and then we'll connect them, and we'll connect them everywhere. But that one line just drips and drips until you do something about it. So at least it doesn't come pouring out, because he's got 3/4 of a tank in it. But I want to get these fuel lines together so it stops dripping, and I don't have to deal with gasoline while I'm working on the brakes. That's the plan. So yeah, let's get those lines and get them in from the top, remembering that the taller one goes furthest away from us, and the vent, I think it's the vent, goes the closest to us. Okay, so here's that vent, and then of these two, from where they clamp, this one's taller, so that's going to go to the outside. We'll go ahead and put him in last. We'll do the vent first because it's kind of a pain, but then it has this to hold it in place, and that'll give us a good reference of where the other two need to go. Close. Now I know this one went behind that brake line. Good thing they got caps on them. I just need to coerce it a little bit. I have to flex through it. I have a feeling if I just go under there and give it a yank from below, that'll be fine. place it hooked on anything. Kind of sit it there and see what we can do. Okay, so now it's at least down below. We can twist it around a little bit. Oh yeah, nice. So just kind of spiraled right into place once we popped it fast. And that's where its home will be, so I get two hands and get this threaded in a little bit. Okay, lining things up top is being super annoying. So I'm clipped it in the back in that double. And then this one's floppy, but it's where it's supposed to be. And then connected them here, but didn't tighten them down yet. These connections actually have O-rings too, so like they're finger tight. I'll tighten those up before we put the trays in. And then hopefully now I can get that rubber piece. I'd really like to have that standoff in place, but look at how they line up, like they don't. This one especially, it isn't going to be very cooperative, but at least they don't flop all over like they did when they weren't connected on the other end. So maybe I'll be able to get it now. There's no way I'll be able to use both hands and be able to tape it. So where did I even put the thing? Right here. So I zip tied it to itself so that the rubber doesn't flop around. And the goal here is going to be to kind of slip it in behind, have this on the post, get the hoses lined up, and then squeeze it shut so we can get a bolt on it, and they'll be there forever. Well, at least until they rust out again. Okay, well it looks, it's okay, right? They're in there, you can kind of wiggle them a little bit, but the point is they won't be rubbing on the firewall any. So we got to tighten this one up with a 14, which is right here. And then those bottom two, I hope I remember right, I think, it's only like 2 hours ago, messing with all this rusty stuff. I think it was the bottom one goes to this hose that I left attached, and the top one goes to the hose I took all the way out. So we got these two put on, and we'll tighten up our center now that everything's kind of lined up, and then we'll attach back here so that our drip stops. Then the fuel lines will actually be done at that point. We can just do the brake lines, and this thing will be out of here. Okay, brake lines. The first one's in finger tight. You can see. Ooh, god damn it. Okay, got this line soaking with Croil because hopefully it'll snap free easily. And then there's two more sections. Either two or three. Three. So there's three more sections for that piece. Blue attaches under the car. Green, I think green to yellow comes across in front of the tank, and then this will wrap around somehow. So see here, I got the brake lines tightened up. I got the fuel hoses clamped in place. Stuff's starting to fit really well. So all I really left to do up here is get the master cylinder back in place and get this support brace on. So we'll go ahead and knock all that out before we mess around on the rear. And then once the rear lines are on, we'll leave it up in the air like this until we get them to come over with fluid, bleed it out, and be able to check all our lines, make sure they're not leaking or anything, snap those trays back up in place, and we'll be on the road. Okay, so I got this side off. I actually had to cut it and use my socket because it was so rusty, but it did come out without damaging the other part. So this line's in finger tight. We got two more pieces. See right there, we got yellow. So this end is going to push through. It's going to be easier to push through from this side, I think. And then the yellow lines up with the yellow. And our green will line up with our green on the other side, and the blue to the blue underneath the car. And then we'll have all the new lines in place. We'll just need to bleed them and kind of tidy things up. Oh, and we gotta put that guy back in. Get him out of the way because it's easier to reach all the fuel lines. But after his brake line's in, we'll put him in. Oh wow, the other side of that thing's way up in there. So I think, yeah, I'm gonna have to detach it from the yellow side, pull it this way, get it tightened together, and then push it through, because I'm not going to be able to get up in there with wrenches unless I drop this whole assembly for the fuel pump. I think that's what it is, fuel pump. So yeah, get the other side back off. Okay, it's a big pain in the butt, right? So that line actually goes behind all of these. So I think what I'm going to try doing is tightening it together. We have that little zigzag that's going to go up. still have to tighten it down. And then try to feed it through as one long piece. I think they probably, well, I know what they're doing, right, is they didn't make this line like this because then you'd have to fold it to ship it, right? So I think this will feed up through there. We just want to try to make that, you know, we don't want it like this, we want it like that, and we'll tighten it down. And see, now we should be able to just angle this up, pass it straight through where it's supposed to be, and then our line itself can pop into place. So it looks like that actually went quite a bit deeper. So if I can get that under the clip, good. So I can hang it there, tighten those together, and we'll meet up on the other side. All right, and I almost forgot about that weird little box that I took out. Had this bolt holding it up. Here it is. And a bunch of lines I just started pulling on. So it looks like we got big line goes into there, a little vacuum line on top, and then the other ones hopefully are self-explanatory. Oh, it sits this way? Yes, it's this way. Yeah, I think things just line up. Let me look up there. Yeah, and there was one line we took off. Different sizes. I think one's bigger. The one hole's bigger, so that makes sense. So, all right, well, I'll wiggle it up in there and we'll see if we can tell. Okay, so the line I left in place slipped onto that one, the smaller one that was lower down. Slipped on there. So a little vacuum line, so it looks big because it's got a foam insulation, probably condensate, right? And they're trying to keep it from freezing in the winter. And then that line goes to here, and that must be frame rail fluid. All right. Yeah, something like that. And this stuff, none of it had clamps, which makes me think it's probably vacuum, or there's just never going to be pressure in it. I don't know. That one, yeah, slides over, and then this one slides over, and then now we're back together. So yeah, we'll let these hull dangle, and we'll get those rails back on after we bleed it. We're pain in the butt. At least it's over. It's over. It's over. Well, it's not, right? Stuff could leak. Stuff could still leak. That's when I tell them to call a tow truck. Take all the money and throw it. Oh, a blue jay. That's cool. It's got good color. Well, Honda's done. Finally. So that video won't actually have the ending. All we did is bleed the brakes. But in that process, the very first one we went to do, passenger rear, because it's the furthest from the master cylinder, could not get the bleeder out. So we pulled the cylinder off, brought it in here on the vise, still couldn't get the bleeder out. It was just a rounded off mangled mess. So $24, I think, for they had one in stock up at the parts store. So we ran and got one, brought it back, bleeded the brakes out, checked for leaks, snapped those trays back in. Hopefully they hold up. I gave him a couple extra zip ties just for good measure. Yeah, he's on his way. We were able to get it out on the road and lock a couple wheels up, so we're happy with it. There's all the old lines in a pile. So yeah, it worked out. And not really a good how-to video, just kind of some of the stuff I've been doing on the side sort of video, but maybe there's something in there that can help somebody.